Hello and welcome to the Beach House 34 podcast. I'm your host, Christine Worth. Welcome to the new subscribers and welcome back to our devoted listeners. If you're here, you know that I've covered the Darlie Routier trial transcripts from the very beginning. And this is the mother who in 1997 was accused and convicted of murdering her two children in Rowlett, Texas. If you're brand new here and want to start from the very beginning, you'll find all of the trial transcripts in their own playlist on YouTube. The actual trial testimony is over. The verdict has been read, and we're now in the punishment phase of the trial. Witnesses are testifying about Darlie, and in today's episode, we hear from Halina Chaban, the mother of Barbara Jovell. Now, Halina was at the house just the day before the crime occurred, doing some cleaning. So let's hear from Halina. Now, Halina has a translator, Sister Christina Crouchick. The court first says, all right, let's go back on the record. These proceedings are being held outside the presence of the jury and all parties in the trial are present. Will you please state your name? Please, ma'am. The witness says, my name is Halina Chaban. And the court says, and your name, sister? And she is the translator for Halina, and she responds with Christina Crouchick. And the court says, all right. Sister, you are reminded that you are still under oath as an interpreter in this case. And she responds, yes. The court says, and ma'am, you are reminded that you are still under oath as a witness because you did testify earlier. And the witness says, yes, sir. The court says, and you were the interpreter earlier. The translator says yes, and the court says, all right, thank you. Okay, bring the jury in, please. So at this point, the jury is brought back into the courtroom and everything is resumed. The court says, ladies and gentlemen, let the record reflect that all parties in the trial are present and the jury is seated. Ladies and gentlemen, these witnesses have already been sworn outside your presence. And as you may recall, the witness, Halina Chaban, while she speaks English, prefers her native language of Polish, and she will speak in Polish, and Sister Christina will do the translating, just as it was when they previously testified in these proceedings. Go ahead, please, Mr. Shook. And the direct examination is being done by the prosecutor, one of the prosecutors, Mr. Toby Shook. Would you tell us your name, please? Halina Chaban. And are you the same woman that testified sometime back in this same trial? Yes. I want to turn your attention to Wednesday, June 5th, 1996. What time did you arrive at Darlie Routier's home? About 8:15, 8:20. All right. And who was in the house when you got there in the morning? Darlie and Becky. Okay. Is Becky the 12-year-old girl that had been over there the previous day? Yes. Where were they located in the house? Darlie was sitting in a big armchair. Rebecca was sitting on the couch across from Darlie. Let me show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 47-A. Is this a photograph of the room where they were sitting? Yes. And we see a chair here to the side. Is that where Darlie was? Yes. The couch over here, is that where Rebecca was? Yes. Okay. And what was going on when you came in the room and they were seated there? They were both just sitting. Okay. And what did you say at that time? I looked around and I was asking, where was the baby? Okay. And what was said when you asked that question? I asked 2 times and I didn't get an answer. Okay. Did Darlie have anything in her lap? Yeah, she had something that looked like a bundle of laundry or clothes. Where was the bundle sitting? On her lap. Okay. Could you tell what was in the bundle at that time? No. Okay. And you asked twice where the baby was? Yes. What happened then? Rebecca pointed her finger towards Darlie's lap. Rebecca pointed her finger towards Darlie's lap? Yes. Okay. What did you say then? Then I told her that probably inside it has to be a baby. Okay. What did you say? Then 2 times I said, please give me the baby. Okay. Did you do anything with your arms when you said that? I stretched my arms towards Darlie because I thought she would give me the baby. Okay. And then what happened? She gave me in such a way as though, like, she threw at me, and then she went upstairs. All right, we have kind of gone over how she handed you the baby, have we not? Yes. Can you demonstrate using this doll and blanket? How was she holding the baby? Yes, the blanket was like this. The blanket was covered in such a way. And holding it just like that on the lap, it was a bigger blanket and was double blanket. Okay. And show us how she handed the baby to you. Like this. And then what did she do? And very fast, she went upstairs. Did she say anything before she went upstairs? She didn't say anything. And what did you do with the baby? I started slowly to uncover the baby. Okay. And maybe you can show us how you did that. I started slowly to uncover the baby in such a way. Okay. And the face of the baby was very red and very perspiring, and the lips were light blue. Did the baby make any noise at that time? No. When I uncovered some more, then the baby started to catch its breath. Then what did the baby do? It started to cry. Okay. I would like to show how I was cradling the baby. And that was my next question. What did you do with the baby after the baby cried? Well, I started to lullaby the baby. The baby was looking at me and crying. I took off my glasses and started to talk to baby. Did that calm the baby down? Yes, it was crying more quiet, and then it was looking at me and then started to close its eyes. Did you get the baby to go to sleep eventually? Yes. How long was it until Darlie came back from downstairs? Maybe 20 or 25 minutes. It was about 20 or 25 minutes. Okay. And what did she tell you to do with the baby when she came back downstairs? I asked her, where should I put the baby so the baby could sleep? And what did she tell you? On the carpet on the floor. Okay. What did you do then? I put it down. Okay. Now, later that morning, did you go back in that same room and see Darlie and Rebecca with the baby? Yes. And where were they sitting again? In the same way, Rebecca on the couch and Darlie in the armchair. Where was the baby? When they came, I only saw the baby and when baby was falling down towards the table. Had the baby was it standing up or, yeah, it was standing. What was he near when he was standing? Near the glass table. Okay. This glass table we see in the center of the photograph? Yes, yes. This area? Yes. Okay. And you said you started to see the baby fall? Yeah, I saw when the baby was falling toward the glass table. What did you do? Very quickly, I came to the baby and I caught the baby and I shouted, "Oh my God." What was Darlie and Rebecca's reaction when you caught the baby? They were laughing at me. What did you say to them? I told her it was not funny. Okay. Later on, were you doing wash and doing your work there in the garage and in the washroom? Yes. When you came into the washroom from the garage, on one occasion, did you see something that caused you some concern? The baby in the laundry. Where was the baby? In the laundry. In the laundry room? Yes. Okay. And was he on the floor, crawling, or standing? It was crawling. Okay. How did you come across the baby? When I opened the door, I just found the baby near the door and I almost stepped on the baby. Okay. What did you do when you found the baby on the floor there? I picked it up, I went to the kitchen, and I called Rebecca. Okay. Where were Rebecca and Darlie at that time? Upstairs. Okay. Did Rebecca come to you when you called her? Yes. And what did you do then? She took the baby and she went upstairs. After lunch on that same day, was the baby placed in the high chair? Yes. Where was this high chair located? In the kitchen, there was a table that usually they were eating by, so the chair was standing by the table. Okay. Had the boys been in to eat lunch? Yes. Is that the first time you had seen them that day? Yes. Okay. Did you, after the baby was in the high chair, did you go back to your work in the laundry room? Yes. Okay. Now, sometime after that, did you hear something that caused you to come into the kitchen? Cry of the baby. Okay. When you came in the kitchen, what did you see? I saw that the baby had slipped down from the seat of the chair. Okay. How was he positioned? The height of the baby was resting on the table, and the baby just slipped down from the seat of the chair. The table that was part of the high chair, that is where his head was? Yes. And the baby had slipped out of the chair itself? Yes. Was the baby crying at that time? Yes. Okay. And what did you do? I came and I wanted to open the seat, but I didn't know how to do this. Okay. So what did you do then? I called Rebecca. Where was Rebecca and Darlie at that time? Upstairs. Okay. Did Darlie come down or just Rebecca? Rebecca. Okay. And what happened then? She opened the seat and picked up the baby, and I told her, don't do this anymore. Okay. Were you angry with her? Yes, I was angry. Okay. Let me turn your attention now to the funeral. Did you go to the boy's funeral? Yes. Okay. And at the funeral, did you see Darlie? Yes. And did you go to her and offer your condolences? Yes. Okay. What did you say to her? I told her that it happened, such a tragedy to her, and now she has to spend so much money for this funeral. Had you spoken to her a couple of days before about her money situation? Not much, but yes. Okay. And what was her response to you when you said this to her? She told me, I am not worried because I will get 5,000 apiece. Okay. And when you heard her say that, what was your reaction? What did you do? I told her, Darlie, sit down because you must be very tired. Okay. Mr. Shook says, that's all the questions we have, Judge. And the court then says, Mr. Mosty. So the cross examination by the defense, Mr. Mosty, begins. Miss Chobin, do you have psychic qualities? Mr. Shook says, Judge, I'll object to the relevance. The court says, I'll let him ask the question. If she knows the answer, she can answer it. Mr. Mosty continues, do you have psychic abilities? And the translator says, excuse me, could you qualify this psychic word? And Mr. Mosty says, Miss Chobin, do you have psychic abilities? No, sir. And the court says, okay, we're going to do this in Polish or we are not going to do it because that is the way we're doing that. Mr. Mosty says, well, Your Honor, I don't know how to do that. And the court says, do you waive the translation for this question? Mr. Mosty says, for this question, I do. The court says, all right, fine. Do you know the answer to the question? Do you have psychic abilities? Answer it if you know it. And the witness says, never. And Mr. Mosty continues, never. Have you ever told anybody you have psychic abilities? Mr. Shook says, now, Judge, I'll object to relevance. And the court says, I'll sustain that. And the witness says, what are you trying? The court says, just a minute, ma'am. Do not say anything until the question is asked, please. All right? Let's go back to the question and answer in Polish. Mr. Mosty says, I guess that statement about the $5,000 bothered you. Yes. It offended you? Yes. And you were very upset about it. Not so much because I thought it was just a tragedy. And during this time, I heard this words, the sentence. Well, it made you not want to have anything to do with her? Yes. But you still went on the 14th, you still went out to the gravesite, didn't you, for Devon's birthday? My daughter asked me to go with her. And you picked up the child and you participated and you were there for hours, weren't you? Not the whole time because I was sitting under the tree because I didn't like what was happening there. But this lady who had offended you, nonetheless, you went out were you there for the prayer service? No. Didn't go for the prayer service? No, there wasn't any prayer. There wasn't any prayer. There wasn't. You know that, don't you? No. Okay. Now, when this $5,000 statement was made, where were you standing? I was standing near her and I was even holding her. Where? By the casket. By the caskets. Is this before the service? No, this was the day when they opened first time the casket and when she saw for the first time the children. At that point, she had not seen the children at all? I don't know. Were you there when Darlie got to the viewing with the police officers? I was there because there was a lot of people. Okay. When she first got there, you were already there? I was standing in the hall and people were standing in the line to express their condolences. Okay. And did she go through the line? No, she was standing. Okay. And did Darlie go to the casket? She was standing there because she wanted first to greet her children. Is this right after she got to the funeral home? Somebody else brought her. Okay. But as soon as she got there, she first went to the casket because they closed it down because she first greeted children and all of the people were waiting in a hall. And you were one of those people waiting there? Yes. Then did Darlie go to the casket? No, she was standing already there when everybody was expressing condolences. After the condolences, did Darlie go to the casket? I didn't see what was happening further because the child was crying and the family was there and we were helping the family so the baby would not cry. Now, tell me, where were you and Darlie standing when this $5,000 statement was made? By the casket. By the casket. Okay. How did you get there? I was standing in a line to express my condolences. And Darlie was standing at the casket. And were people coming to the casket where Darlie was? The translator then says, "Excuse me, could you repeat that?" Mr. Mosty says, "Was Darlie standing at the casket? And were people coming to the casket where Darlie was?" Yes. And how many people were coming to the casket? Very many. Where was Darren standing? The translator says, "Excuse me?" Mr. Mosty says, "Where was Darren standing?" He was standing on the side a little farther with other men. Okay. Who was at the casket when you went up there? Darlie. Who else? There was some kind of men. The men were sitting on the chair. Darlie was standing, and there were people standing. And I was standing there to say I was sorry. Okay. And were there a lot of people? Then were there people behind you in the line? Yes, not so many, but they were. But they weren't waiting back, were they, where everybody was coming up at once? No, they were coming one by one. So, how many people were standing at the casket? Or at the casket, were these several men? There was Darren, there was Darlie, there was you, and who else? And the translator says, "Sir, could you repeat, but not so much?" Okay. Mr. Mosty says, "The people that were at or close to the casket were Darren and some men." Darren wasn't by the casket. He was farther on the side, and Darlie was standing alone. Darlie was standing alone. No one was holding her up. No one supporting her. No one standing beside her. No, maybe somebody from her family was there, but I was just paying attention to Darlie. Okay. So maybe somebody was standing beside her. When I came, we were standing just two of us and nobody was by very close. Okay. Did you speak to her in English? The translator says, "Excuse me?" Mr. Mosty says, "Did you speak to her in English?" Yes, in English. What did you say? Exactly your words. In English? In English. "Darlie, I am so sorry. What happened?" That is exactly what you said? Yes. I say, "You have many problems and now very expensive funeral. You know, I am very, very sorry." And she said, "Now, but is that exactly what you said?" Yes. All right. Now, let's go back to Polish. Your way of expressing your condolences to Darlie was to say that it was a very expensive funeral? The translator says, "Sir, could you repeat?" Mr. Mosty continues. Your way of expressing your condolences to Darlie was to say this is a very expensive funeral? No. Well, you made that statement, didn't you, just a moment ago? Because the day before, she was telling me that she didn't have money and that she needed $10,000. I understand you said that, but that is part of what you said. You said, I'm sorry, this is expensive. Yes. Now, this morning that you went on the, what day was that you described this incident with Drake? The 5th of June. How did you get to the Routier residence? My daughter brought me. Did she leave you off at the front sidewalk? Yes. And is this the second time you had been to the Routier residence? No, one time I was there because I was there 4 times because Darlie asked my daughter to bring me to her house. And so I was in her house 4 times. 4 times all told? Yes, correct? Right. And the first 2 times were just social visits. We came there and they were just cleaning, making bed. My question is the 2 times you worked 2 days, am I right? Yes, 2 days I worked. And 2 times before that, you had been there to visit? I didn't go, they just asked me to go there. My question is how many times had you ever walked inside the Routier house? 4 times. Okay. 2 of them were the day you worked there, right? Yes. And the other 2 times was just to visit, is that right? Yes, I was accompanying my daughter. The first 2 times your daughter went with you? Yes. And the first day you worked, your daughter went with you, didn't she? Yes, because she was picking up Darren to his work. And she went up and she actually went in the house with you. She only entered and then soon after, Darren went with her, left with her. Okay. So now on this fourth visit, your daughter dropped you off at the sidewalk. The fourth visit, the first time you had been to the house, your daughter dropped you off at the sidewalk? No, we entered the house. Your daughter entered the house with you the fourth time? The translator then says, Sir, do you ask about the fourth time? And Mr. Mosty says, The fourth time. No. Okay, your daughter on the fourth visit, on the day you have described these instances with Drake, that day your daughter let you off at the sidewalk? No, I just opened the door and I said goodbye and I entered the house and my daughter left. When you said goodbye, you left the car and said goodbye to your daughter at the car? By the door. My daughter didn't want to enter, but my daughter wanted to be sure that I entered house. Okay, so now the translator then says, Excuse me, the lady said the door, but she didn't say what kind of door. I just repeat exactly what she says. Mr. Mosty continues, Are you testifying? Is your story now that your daughter got out of her car and walked you to the door? No, she was in the car. Okay. Your daughter never got out of the car? No, she was in a hurry to open the business. So you got out of the car at the sidewalk and you walked up to this house by yourself? Yes. And you rang the doorbell? The door was open. Standing open? No, I opened it. I opened the door by the handle because my daughter told me about this. Did you knock? No, because my daughter told me that Darlie told her just open the door by the handle by itself. Oh, okay. So now the story is that you had already been told just go on in the house. Even Darlie told me just to enter the house because the door will be open. When did she tell you that? It was even when I came for the first time. Okay. So this is the fourth time in the house. You didn't knock, you didn't ring the doorbell, you just walked in the house. Yes. Okay. And you walked in the what room first? Well, when I entered the house, just nearby is a family room, a living room. Did you say when you walked in, Darlie, I'm here? Yes. Where were you when you said that? Just when I entered the house. Before you saw Darlie, you had called out to her? No, when I entered the room, I said, Good morning. Well, so when you entered the entry hall, you said nothing? I entered. Did you call out and say, Darlie, Mrs. Routier, I am here? Yes, when I was coming closer. But not until you saw her. You never said anything? And then the court says, You better let Sister Christina get around there where she can point to that thing too. And Mr. Mosty says, let me climb back here. All right. The witness then says, all right. I don't remember very well. I usually do not enter a house if I was not invited, but Darlie told me. Mr. Mosty continues, you had never entered the house without knocking before, had you? No, never. This morning, I really don't remember. When you walked up that entry hall, you didn't say anything? Yes. Not until you got to this position? Here. And Darlie was sitting in this chair? Yes. And Rebecca was sitting on what couch? Here. Okay. How many pounds did Drake weigh? I don't know. He was very tiny. Very tiny? Not very. No, he was not fat. He wasn't skinny, just like a baby. Okay. And where were Darlie's feet? On the floor. On the floor? Yes. Was she sitting back? Yes. Okay. And the chair that she was sitting in, is this chair here, ma'am? Yes. Okay. That is a low chair, isn't it? It's normal. It's a thick chair, isn't it? It's a thick chair that is standing in the room. Okay. And how was she sitting? Like I am? Yes. That chair is lower than this chair, isn't it? I didn't measure it, so I don't know. It's the kind of chair you sink down in, isn't it? The translator says, excuse me, would you repeat? Mr. Mosty says, it's the kind of chair that you sink down in? No, but she didn't sink. The chair was even. When you sit in that, do the cushions go down when you sit in that chair? Yes, with my weight, for sure. Fair enough. And Rebecca is sitting right in front of her? Yes. And you are sitting over there? You are standing over there? What are you asking? When you first talked to Darlie, Darlie was sitting in the armchair and I was standing there. You were standing to Darlie's right? Yes. Okay. When you first said something to her, how far away from her were you? About so far as right now from me. Okay. As far as from me to this table, a little closer. Closer? Yes. About like this? Yes. You were standing on her side? Yes. And you said something to her? Good morning. Okay. What is the second thing you said to her? Nothing, because I look around because I didn't see the baby. Okay. She had both feet on the ground. Yes. Did she say good morning to you? Yes. Did Rebecca say anything to you at first? I didn't say anything to Rebecca, and Rebecca didn't say anything to me. Okay. So then you were still this close when you said, where is Drake? I don't know exactly about what date you are talking about. The first day or the second day? I'm asking about the day that you walked in and asked about Drake. Where is the baby? Which day was it? Yes, that day I was standing in this position so close as you just are showing now. And you could not see Drake? No. You saw a bundle in Darlie's hands? Cross my heart, yes. Where were Darlie's hands? Like this. Like this? Yes. And you were standing this close, and you said, where is the baby? Or did you say, where is Drake? No, I said, where is the baby? Where is the baby? Yes. And she did not respond? No. And you said again, where is the baby? Yes. Did you say a third time, where is the baby? Yes. And after the first and second time, you got no response? And no. And you were standing right here the whole time? Yes. You never moved? No. And then after the third time, she threw the baby? No. Rebecca pointed her finger towards Darlie's lap. Okay. What did you do when Rebecca pointed her finger? Because I saw that there was no movement in this bundle, so I just repeated twice, give me the baby. So when Rebecca pointed, you knew that was the baby in the bundle? Yes. So you said 2 times, give me the baby? 3 times. 3 times? So first you said 3 times, where is the baby? And then you said 3 times, give me the baby? Yes. And all the time you were standing right here? Yes. And on the third time, then, she throws the baby? No, I repeated, please, please give me the baby. Okay. And she did. She threw the baby? Yes, she gave me the baby in such a way like was shown. Like I am showing? No, you should get up because she got up from the chair. Oh, she has this 18-pound baby in her lap, like I am sitting? She wasn't sitting in exactly the way you are sitting now. Isn't this the position you told me to get in? No, like me. Like you see me. Sitting straight up? Yes. But in this deep chair? Yes, in a deep chair. And she stood up? Yes. And threw the baby? You may, I may say as though she threw the baby because she was angry, because it looked like, because I felt as though she was angry or something. So you must have run around to get in front of her? No, she just got up from the chair and she came to me and gave me the baby. So she got up like this, came to you and gave you the baby? She gave me in such a way, as I told you before, the baby was in a double blanket. And you have already told us a number of times today, you all were within arm's length of each other during this whole exchange. And the translator says, excuse me? Mr. Mosty says, you have already told us a number of times that you and she were within arm's length of each other during this entire exchange. The translator again says, excuse me, sir, can you repeat? And Mr. Mosty says, you have already told us several times that you were within arm's length of her every time you asked her questions and when she gave you the baby. I didn't know exactly. I don't. How should I know how far exactly I was? Well, Miss Chobin, every time that you and I have talked here, I have been this far from this table. You moved me closer, didn't you? I thought you were asking me about the baby, not about how should you move that chair. How should I tell you that you should move your chair closer to the table? Didn't you tell me to move my chair closer to the table? No, I didn't say to move your chair. I just wanted to say that it was closer. Okay. Then you know that the baby likes to sleep covered up, don't you? Yes, you knew that. Everybody knew that, didn't they? Yes. And when you laid the baby down on the pillow on the floor, when you laid the baby down, there wasn't a pillow. Was there a blanket? The blanket that I had, I just put together with the baby. Did you put it over the baby's head? No. Did the baby pull it over his head? No, I just put the blanket on the floor. I just opened the blanket more. You didn't cover the baby? No. Now, then you say, then what did you do in your work day? After you laid the baby down, what did you do? I went to the laundry and I was washing the rest of the clothing. I was doing the laundry. Did the baby take a nap? Yes. How long? I don't know. I only put the laundry in the washing machine. I don't know. Maybe about 20 minutes, but I don't know about 20 minutes. Was it about 20 minutes later when you went back and saw the baby walking by the glass table? How, in what way the baby was by the glass table? I don't know. What time of day is it? How much later was it? It was soon after he fell asleep and then got up. Do you know how long that was? I started the laundry and I put into the washing machine and the machine started to work and I left the laundry and I was coming close to the chair. And then I saw the baby falling down. And how was baby there? I don't know. Okay. This is after you have done the laundry and you are coming from the utility or you started the laundry? Yes. And you were coming into the living room? This way. I was walking. Why were you walking to the living room? Why? Because I was coming here and then later I was dusting the fireplace. Okay. And where was Darlie? Here. Still in the same chair? Yes. Where was Rebecca? Here. And when you were, at what point did you see the baby falling? Here. You were standing right there? No, I was just approaching this place. Where was the baby? Here. Which way was the baby falling? On toward the table. It was falling toward the edge of the glass table. And you were standing about here? Yes. Closer than my finger was? Yes. So you were the one that was closest to the baby, weren't you? There was Darlie, there was Rebecca, and I was there. Well, you have moved your finger back now. Was it here or was it here? No, because this is so small, and the room was bigger than this. And you were standing? No, I was approaching, and there is a difference. You were on your feet, weren't you? Yes. And you say that you could get to the baby the quickest? I said that the baby was falling toward the table, and I moved very fast in order to catch the baby. So that is the second time you had seen the baby. And then the next time you saw the baby was in the utility room? Yes. And where had the baby been in the meantime? I don't know. Because there was Darlie and Rebecca, and I was doing what I was supposed to do. Because Darlie said that Rebecca was a babysitter. Okay. And you were out in the garage? Yes, because she asked me to do something with the garbage that was in the garage. Had you gone out to the garage? I entered the garage. I went through the garage. Did you close the utility room behind you? Yes. Okay. So you went out in the garage and did whatever you were going to do? Yes. And you walked back in and you said you almost stepped on the baby? Yes. That utility room door opens into the utility room, doesn't it? The translator says, "Excuse me, sir, could you repeat that?" Mr. Mosty says, "The door opens into the utility room, doesn't it?" I have to see. There is the door, one door, that through the door you can enter laundry or garage. You can just pass by. So you opened this door. Where was the baby? Right here. And so when you opened the door, you almost stepped on him? Yes. Okay. You had opened the door in like that, and it was so close that you almost stepped on the baby? Yes, because I was carrying some kind of laundry, like stockings or something. And so I just did not pay attention exactly. Now, wait a minute. Why had you carried the laundry out into the garage? You would understand me wrong. I just took from over there some kind of dirty laundry. Oh, so you picked up some dirty laundry out in the garage? In the laundry, there was dirty clothes. And before Darlie was checking those clothes because she was supposed to do garage sale. And there was the laundry and the trash was over there and garbage. So I went to the garage too. So I picked up whatever was dirty to wash. Okay. Picked it up with both hands? No, I had very little of something. Of the laundry you picked up in the garage, there was probably swimming suit of the babies, of the children. And then the fourth time you saw the baby, he was in a high chair? Yes. And no one was around? First was Darlie and Rebecca, and they were feeding the baby. Okay. Did you eat with them? No, I was eating later. Darlie gave me sandwich, and I wasn't eating there because Darlie put the cake for me on the table. You saw the baby in the high chair eating, I guess. Yes, because when I folded the dry clothes, I brought back to the kitchen. And so when I was passing by, I saw them both standing by the child. Okay. And then you went on about doing your laundry. What do you mean laundry? Wash. In this day, I didn't have so much laundry to do, so I was dusting. When the baby ate, where was the crib or the high chair? There is a table. There is a table. Where was the high chair? Here. Now, then, you were working in the utility room? Yes. And at some point, Rebecca and Darlie must have left this room. I don't know when they left the room. But you were working all the time in this utility room? No, no. But at that time, when the child was in the high chair, I was folding down the drying clothing. In this utility room? Yes. And you don't know when Darlie and Rebecca left this room? No, I don't know. How long were you in this utility room? The translator then says, "Excuse me, would you repeat?" Mr. Mosty says, "How long were you in this utility room?" There wasn't so much of laundry, so it was about 15 minutes. Okay. And when you came out, you heard something while you were in there? Cry of the baby. And you came out of the utility room? Yes. And was the high chair still in the same place? Yes. And tell me, how was the baby's head again? If you will come closer to me, I will show you. Reluctantly, yes. Good. Please give me this baby. The baby was sitting on the chair, and the baby slipped down like this. What is under this chair? What is in the bottom of this chair? Probably there was a belt. Of course, protecting the child. Of course. Drake was a lot bigger than this doll, wasn't he? Oh, yes, much bigger. Yes. How had the baby gotten in the high chair? You got any idea? The translator says, "Excuse me, could you repeat, sir?" Mr. Mosty says, "Do you have any idea how the baby got in the high chair?" They started to feed the baby. They were giving food to the baby. You saw somebody put the baby in the high chair? Well, no, I didn't see. Did the baby have food on the tray while the baby was eating? They started to feed the baby, and I saw this, but who put the baby in the high chair, I didn't see. Was somebody feeding the baby? At the beginning, I saw when they started to feed the baby, and when I saw the cry of the baby, and then I thought, there is so quiet, and only I hear the baby. And Mr. Mosty says, "I'll object to non responsive, Your Honor." And the court says, "Well, we are dealing with a translator. Just re ask the question." Mr. Mosty continues, "Miss Chauvin, I am focusing in on particularly, did you see someone feed the child?" I didn't see. I saw them both when they were getting ready to feed the baby, but who was feeding the baby, I didn't see. The baby couldn't feed himself? No, they did not finish feeding the baby, and this surprised me. Oh, now you know from the utility room that they didn't finish feeding the baby? Yes, because when you start to feed a 7-month-old baby, then you have to finish feeding this baby. Okay. Was there still food on when you went and found the baby, was there still food on the high chair? It was spilt on the table. No food? No, because it was spilled. The child, probably with his hand, spilt on the table. So your story is somebody fed the baby, but they didn't finish? Yes. And then they took the food away, but left the baby there? No, no, the food wasn't taken away. The food was still there. Was there a baby jar on the table on the high chair? The translator says, "Excuse me, by jar, do you mean a bottle?" And Mr. Mosty says, "Yes." And the witness says, "It was a food in the bottle or something." Mr. Mosty continues, "And that was still there when you found the baby?" Yes. Okay. So they didn't finish feeding the baby, but they just left and left the food and left the baby in the high chair? Yes. And they went upstairs. Yes. And then about 20 minutes later, you rescued the baby? I don't know exactly if it was 20 minutes. So, if I understand it, you saw this baby basically 4 times during the day? Yes, in an accident. Okay. And these 4 crises, is that the only time you saw this baby that day? During this day? Yes. Okay. All 4 times you saw the baby, it was in some type of crisis? No, I saw when Rebecca was carrying the baby. Okay. Mr. Mosty says, "That's all I have." And the court says, "Anything else?" And Mr. Shook says, "No, sir." And the court says, "Thank you. You may step down." And the court says, "All right, your next witness." And Mr. Davis says, "Your Honor and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time, the state of Texas will rest its case in chief in punishment." And the court says, "All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the testimony you are going to be hearing from the state in this phase of the trial. If you will step, we will take a break now, a 15-minute break. Be back at 2:45. Be ready to go, please." And at this point, we are going to end this episode and then continue with further testimony in the punishment phase. And we will hear next from Darlie Routier. All right, so let's recap really quick. In this testimony, we hear something a little similar to what Halina had testified to earlier in the case, that when she entered the home on the 5th in order to do some cleaning, she found Darlie in a chair in the family room, the same room where the crimes would later occur, and a 12-year-old babysitter was sitting on the couch across from Darlie. That it appeared as though Darlie was holding laundry, and when Halina asked where the baby was, she had to repeat herself multiple times until the 12-year-old finally pointed at Darlie, indicating that the baby was inside this bundle in Darlie's lap. She then told Darlie to give her the baby, and she did, but Halina described it as Darlie throwing the baby to her, and that Darlie and Rebecca then went upstairs after handing the baby to Halina. Now, according to Halina, when she uncovered the baby, and this would be Drake, he was red and sweaty, and according to Halina, his lips were a light blue. Halina also said that she was able to get the baby calmed down and get him to sleep, and this was about 20 to 25 minutes later, because this is when Darlie and Rebecca come back downstairs. And Halina asked what she should do with Drake and was told to put him down on the floor. Later on, she said that both Darlie and Rebecca were in the same locations in the living room, Darlie in the chair and Rebecca on the couch, and that Drake was standing near the glass table when he began to fall. So she rushed over to make sure that he didn't hit his head, and both Darlie and Rebecca evidently were laughing. At one point, Halina had been in the garage and went back into the utility or laundry room and found Drake crawling around in there. No other person was around, and so she had to holler for Rebecca because her and Darlie were both back upstairs. Rebecca came down, got Drake, and took him upstairs. Around lunchtime, the older boys, they had been in to eat, and they had left, and Drake was in his high chair at the table. Halina had been in the laundry room and heard a cry, and when she came out, she said that she saw Drake had slipped in his high chair and his head was on the high chair table and that no one was around. So evidently, Darlie and Rebecca were upstairs again. So seriously, they're sure upstairs a lot. Halina said that she had to holler for Rebecca to come and help her open the tray table, and that Darlie never came down. It was just Rebecca. At the visitation for the boys, Halina said that she told Darlie how sorry she was and said something to Darlie about how much this was going to cost, and that Darlie had said to her that she wasn't worried because she would get $5,000 apiece. When the cross-examination begins, Mr. Mosty's first question, and this is the defense, about whether or not Halina this is his first question about whether or not Halina believes herself to be a psychic. And this kind of threw me for a bit. I'm sure he was trying to make it out as if Halina was just odd or eccentric, but when the question didn't translate well, it just kind of falls flat. The comment about the $5,000 evidently offended Halina so much that she didn't want to have anything to do with Darlie from that point forward. Now, Halina tries to describe what I believe is a receiving line for the funeral visitation. And the way that I understand what she is saying is that there was a line of people waiting to express their condolences, and Darlie was standing by the casket in order to receive these people. This is where she and Halina had their conversation. Now, what I did find interesting, though, is that Darren, according to Halina, wasn't next to Darlie. He was, quote, farther on the side. So I'm not exactly sure what was meant by that, but all I know is that he evidently wasn't standing with Darlie to receive people coming in, from what I understand. Mosey tries to get her to talk about why she mentioned money in the first place while she was talking with Darlie at the casket. But Mosey cuts her off before she gets to the part where Darlie says that she'll get $5,000 each. However, this kind of backfires a little bit on Mosty when Halina is asked why she said this at all, and that it was because Darlie had just told her the day before that she didn't have any money and needed $10,000. So when we get to the day when Halina arrived at the house and asked where the baby was, Mosty goes over some really odd things, like if the chair was so soft that Darlie was sink down into it, whether or not Halina announced herself when she walked in the door, and when exactly it was that she first said hello to Darlie. I mean, it feels to me as if he's reaching. We get a little bit more knowledge about what Halina meant when she said throw the baby, if you remember that. Halina said that Darlie had given her the baby in such a way where she felt that Darlie was angry. Now, Mosty tries to make it out as if since Halina was on her feet and walking towards the living room where this is the point where Drake was about to fall into the glass table, even though Darlie was in the chair in the same room and Rebecca was on the couch, same places that they were before, Mosty tries to make it out that it makes the most sense that it was Halina who was the one who should have been quickest to the baby because she was on her feet. When it comes to Drake being roaming around or crawling around in the utility room, Halina had been asked to go into the garage to get rid of some garbage. And while she was there, it sounds like she found some dirty laundry, including swimsuits and stockings, and went to bring those back into the house through the utility room when she saw Drake on the floor in there. And that's about as far as that goes. You know, Mosty doesn't get into where Darlie or Rebecca, the babysitter, were at the time. He just moves on to the incident with lunch. And this lunchtime incident, according to Halina, she was aware that Darlie and Rebecca had been feeding the baby, but she heard the baby cry when she was in the utility room. And then when she came out, the bottle had been spilled on the table and Drake had slipped out of his high chair, but no one was around. And that's where Mosty's questioning ends. And the state rests its testimony in the punishment phase. So next up is the defense's turn, where we start with Dana Routier. Thank you all for listening. If you haven't yet, please make sure you subscribe so that you get notified as soon as the next episode is available. Until next time, take care and bye for now.